Come on in. I've brightened it up a little. I don't know if Sam, you've listened to it a few times.
Yes, it is. I like it. I like the color.
Yeah, summer is about like weird greens and pale pinks. Come on in. There we go. That's me talking to myself. Now I'm getting nervous. So this is fun. Realizing that I was like, oh, I've learned something. I know everything about sake. I don't know everything, but I know about these sakes. And then I was like, oh, now I actually have to talk about people.
Right?
Hi everyone.
I feel like I learned so much.
Hello. Please shout out in the comments and say hello. So because no one else knows. Sorry, nobody else knows who else is on the comments. Who else is attending? So if you shout out, then that way people, especially industry people, they can get to know that you're shared experiences. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Holly, I like your confidence. But any sake starts with a bottle of Pocari Sweat. I don't know. Are you familiar with this, Sam? I don't know.
Oh, 100%. That is what
Pocari is the only way I survive drinking. I go to Nations once a week, and I buy 3 of these, and I drink them whenever I'm feeling sad. No, when I'm feeling hungry. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sake Coach at Home. As always, I'm your host, Nick. I'm here to teach you about sake. I'm really excited. These sakes are so delicious. And I wore the only piece of Japanese clothing I own, which Sam has absolutely seen me wear at a brunch every now and again. It's just light and it's cotton and it just makes me feel happy. Anyway,
that and Neopop.
Thank you very much for coming. I'm excited to share some really cool sakes and talk about them. And as always, I have a co-host. This week, I brought someone who I've worked with for a few years, Peter Pan, who loves sake as much as I do. Sam Nichols, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am wonderful. Very
excited for sake.
I'm so excited for sake. Right. Especially today's lineup.
I know these are. Here's an insider tip, or secret of Wine Coach is that I often plan these like via email. I don't actually people don't present me 20 wines and I'm like, these are the 4 wines I'm going to choose tonight. No, it's usually via email. It's usually about price point and what's available and all that kind of stuff. So I was really happy that this weird niche that I created, this topic would bear fruit, and it did. And I'm really excited. And I'm glad you're excited too. As always, our secret Psalm, Rachel, is in the chat. She's already said hello. She's there to answer all your annoying questions that I refuse to allow you to ask me personally. But we got some fun things, and there's a reason why we're doing sake, and it isn't that sake is cool and absolutely we should all be drinking more of it. But Sam, you, me, Rachel, a few of our people that we know, and some people actually participating tonight. We participated in Hako Gakko with Mariko during February. It was 4 weeks of a sake course where Mariko gave us all the tips, the knowledge, the excitement about sake, and this was a really great way. The reason I did this was that I learned a lot and I tasted a lot, and I was like, now put your money where your mouth is, or more so, you need to put your money where my mouth is. And so I decided to do a little sake And I'm excited to do it. Were you? I mean, I went from like nervous small child, like not confident about sake, to being a little bit more like, I don't know, like 17-year-old confidence about sake. But how was your, like, what's your sake experience? What's your sake journey? Sam?
My sake journey, I definitely like sake's been in the peripherals of my life. Like I grew up in a part Japanese family, so I remember like having the large bottles of the ishobin and like hearing someone like yell like sake kusai in the morning, which is like basically they smell like sake or like alcohol. But in terms of like actual knowledge, definitely now like sitting down and like learning and like it's been a lot better. Like I feel, yeah, maybe teenager years is like I could be like, yeah,
absolutely.
like I enjoy that.
I'm not even like 21 in terms of sake, like any type of wisdom, but I definitely feel like looking backwards, I can acknowledge the nervousness, especially wine people, sommeliers, like feel about sake, and like, it's not fear, but it's like this, like, I don't want to understand it. I don't need to understand it. It's not important. Or like, it's too hard. I don't understand language, or no one wants to drink it. But it's like, that's 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 the excuse that other people. That's the excuse that other people. Oh look, there's Peter. He's going to be really upset about that. That's the excuse that other people get to give themselves, not sommeliers or not wine people. Like, we need to be learning. We need to understand this beverage. Like, it's perfect for pairings. It's perfect for people to drink. It's something that a region. It's a style of beverage. It's a horrible word, but it's something that has complexity and nuance, and like people should be drinking more of it, and people can drink a lot, like different styles, different types, and like it's literally my job is to learn, to share my knowledge and point people in different directions. And so, the excuse that it's too hard, can't read the characters. Yeah, that's it's fine for civilians, it's not fine for sommeliers. And so, I'm glad we get to like push ourselves, learn and sell and talk and do things like this, which is super fun.
Most definitely.
Okay, sake number 1, 7:09. We've got to start drinking. This is, so feel free, if you haven't got sake number 1 in front of you, you can start sipping and smelling. This isn't sake 101. This isn't me explaining how to taste sake or what sake is made. That's not what I did with Wine Coach. I didn't teach you how wine was made. I didn't teach you how a grapevine. No, this isn't. If you're waiting for that, like, go to YouTube. I'm sorry, I definitely don't have the skill set to be able to explain sake in a way that is understandable. But there is a comparison. There is a parallel in that there is a natural product and a plant product that sake is made from, in the same way wine is made from. And it is not a useful way to think of sake based on the rice that is used to make it. I think that it doesn't have the same level of impact or significance that it does in wine. But I gotta, like, it is a way to discuss sake. And so I want to start this conversation off by saying, like, the rice that is in every sake, it doesn't define it's not the defining characteristic of the sake. There is the brewing technique, there is the regionality, there is the stylistic choices that the Toji make, that all go towards creating the product that's in your glass. But rice is fun, and we don't often talk about it. So let's talk about rice. I love eating rice. that's my Asian heritage coming through. There is nothing better than a bowl of plain white rice. But we're going to drink sake number one. This is Masumi. This is the Kaya Brown Junmai. I'm going to put it in the chat. I had to do a lot of research this week, so there's a lot more information about the sake in the chat. The label. I really like the label. Masumi, there's a lot about Masumi that I love. I really like their approach to like communication in terms of helping people understand what sake is or what their sakes are. There's Braille on the bottle, and I spent 20 to 40 minutes trying to figure out what the Braille was. I mean, obviously, I was like, I'm sure it says sake, but I didn't understand that, so I had to go to the Japanese. What Japanese Braille is, and like figure out what the symbols were, so that like I knew that it was sake, which I think was kind of fun. Sam, tell me about this sake. What are your impressions?
So for this particular sake, I find that it's not as, I guess, austere as a lot of other junmai that I've had, although this rice has a lot more protein with it. So for that reason alone, I think it's polished to, what is it? It's polished to 50? No.
Oh, I did this. No, I didn't.
I think it's either Kaya Brown was polished to 50, 60, but for this rice, there's more proteins. There is a little bit more, I guess like
60. I'm not sure. Let's see if it's 60. Let me look it up. Because polishing ratios is kind of like, for me, and sake is like talking about like rootstock. It's like it means something, but it doesn't help. Doesn't necessarily can help you know what's in the glass. I really like this sake. Like people talking about, like Rachel was saying how fruity it is. Like for me, it's I don't get that at all. I get like cereal and like toasted bran and like rice flavors. I really, really enjoy like the earthiness of this. And 70%. 70% is the polishing ratio.
70%?
This is such a good one.
Yeah, it does have it definitely has like the fruity like undertones of like candied fruit, like a Swedish berry. Like I do agree with Rachel on that, but I definitely also smell like the more cereal qualities as well. It's almost like the fruit quality really sits underneath the more cereal qualities.
And I was really happy with this lineup in that there was no Daiginjo present. And so Daiginjo is this very classic idea of what sake is, that it is like clean, and it has this like strong flavors of melon and banana, and it's like this like very super elegant like sort of subtle sake. And I really wanted to show some sakes that didn't have that necessarily that level of like elegance and that like really classic flavor. There is a breadth of flavor profiles, and for me, I tried to focus on those rice notes. So the rice for this one is Yamanishiki, and it is popular in. There's a lot about rice that I want to learn that I couldn't absorb it all. So this is from Nagano Prefecture, and so Nagano is in the mountains, and so there's a lot of climate, like the climate and the altitude affects a lot about like what rice you can grow, and a lot about rice is not only about like the look of the grain, but it's how long the stalks are and if the wind's going to blow it over and all these kinds of things. And so when talking about sake rice, a lot of it has to do with like how choosing rice that grow in those regions. And I think it's a really fun, I think it's a really interesting way to approach and like understand a little bit. So Miyama Nishiki is like one of the classic kind of styles of classic rice varietals that is used a lot. But what Masumi is really famous for is its yeast. So um, like all alcoholic beverages, sake relies on yeast to convert the sugar into alcohol, which is the reason we all keep drinking it. And Masumi is famous for
Yeast number
yeast number
7.
7. I was going to say 7, but I wanted also to say 9, and I was like, this is a really important point. But in 1946, they isolated a yeast in the Masumi brewery, and they called it yeast number 7, which it's kind of like this weird German approach that I really appreciate. It's just numbers. It's like yeast number 9, yeast number 7, yeast number 14. I really actually appreciate this, like that clarity. There's a lot of yeast.
There's 25.
Yeah, that's
or
20.
like
I've got a
designated
link here.
25, I believe. And then it's usually the, I guess the lower numbers are better fermenters, and then the higher numbers are more for aromatics.
So if you want to learn about sake yeast, I found this website. It lists them all. It's super interesting. And I again, yeast, rice, water. There's so many different like ways to approach sake to like nerd out on it. But we're choosing rice today. The other cool thing that we will sort of develop as we start talking about these sakes is this brewery was started in 1662. So before Australia was even discovered by Europeans, this company was making sake. It's mind-blowing, which I think is a really exciting, it's just a really fun element of Japanese culture that like the oldest companies in the world are from Japan. And like this family, for lack of a better word, has been making sake for nearly 400 years, which I think is super interesting. Like how like a generation, 25 years in winemaking creates so much change, and there's so much different like trends and like climate and different varietals and the influence of different worlds. Like imagine puts like 400 years into that equation and like the journey this place has gone through. I think it's really cool. And
Definitely.
like, I mean, it doesn't, as anything, it doesn't indicate any quality. It just indicates its rich history. And like, I really like how they celebrate it. I really like how they have artifacts from that period in their museum. Because sake breweries have museums, which is a really fun part of, if you ever go to Japan, go to a drink sake and go to a museum at the same time. Like, I mean, I don't think that's possible, but I don't. What other fun facts did I learn?
What was it? I also think it's fun because rice also changes in those regions because there's constant developing of better strains. So this particular sake as well has something called Hitogokochi, which is another strain of Miyama Nishiki. It just has less protein. So that's what is used to be, or what they use to like add in during the fermentation process.
And so Miyama Nishiki is a little, it kind of brings out, you always have this tendency for like a grainy and like ricey profile with sort of more muted aromatic. When we come to the other sakes, you'll kind of understand that. And it is also grown in like northern prefectures. So Fukushima, Yamagata, Akita, Miyagi. So if this is a sake that you kind of like learn the, oh, actually, I've got a map. Why don't I show you? Write them down. Like this yellow region is where you want to go. This is where, like up here is where are getting these like northern sakes, and I've just got locked out. So it's really like I haven't figured out yet how to help you navigate sake, but I'm trying because I'm still very new at this, but I do want to show you like the things that I'm focusing on. So understanding like, some of the rice varietals, some of the yeast varietals, the prefectures they're from, the culture in that prefecture, like what they eat, what the climate's like. All of these things as a som help me paint a picture until I get to go over there and I see the picture and then I drink liters of this sake. I really like this sake. This is 14%, so it's more a lighter style, 14.5. So it is a lighter style of like in terms of body. And I think this is a really nice way to sort of get our engines going. Sake number 2. I went flying through this. This is good. Okay, sake number 2. I'm a amachi like nut. I love amachi. So what am I talking about? Well, amachi is a rice. And this is a sake made from this rice. There we go. Copy.
A very difficult rice to grow.
So this is the Wazakura. I love this bottle also. Something about the blue and the red. I have no idea I don't know what's being communicated on the label. I haven't found the energy to understand kanji yet, but I promise I will one day. But thankfully, if you don't understand this, usually you will have on the back English, understanding the key terminology, and you can usually find the terms that you are familiar with, whether it be polishing ratios, whether it be prefecture names, whether it be rice varietals. There's usually a good amount of information there. And the classic LCBO, thank you so much. This contains water, rice, and koji. So great, so useful. So Amachi is an heirloom varietal. It was kind of identified 150 years ago. It's kind of like a progenitor of a lot of modern sake rice varietals, like Yamada Nishiki, like Miyama Nishiki, and it is grown in Okayama, and it's super fun. I really like this. I don't know. Do you have a preference for like rice? I don't know.
I personally, I really enjoy like most Yamada Nishikis, which will be the next on our list of sakes, but it's just because there's such a giant variance between, so it's more producer, I suppose, than it is actual rice. But this particular rice, it's interesting to like see the care that this particular toji or sake brewer puts into their work. It's just so fragrant. On the palate one. I'm taking a sip. Yeah. There's just like such a wonderful like fruit quality as well as something umami. And then it has quite a great like almost like a sweet buckwheat, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. It has this like broadness and this wildness to it. And not to be reductive, but it kind of it ticks the boxes that Syrah does with me, that it has this level of complexity, but also this like edge to it that's a little rough, that's a little interesting. And like, I like how quickly the flavors kind of like just sit there. And like, there's so much going on in the glass. And it reminds me, that concentration reminds me very much of Syrah. I don't like why I love Syrah. And I think like for me, that's kind of where Amachi kind of like hit all my pleasure senses, is that you get this kind of like, I don't know, just like this flavor bomb that is unami and ricey and buckwheat, but also there's like a fruit, there is a fruit component, and it's got this earth, and it's like a little tough to understand, like a little difficult to understand, but also super like dynamic and exciting, and I don't know.
100%. It definitely is dynamic, and it's also fun how it develops on the palate as well. I think that to me is always like the most interesting part about tasting, specifically Dewazakura, just because they've really worked and perfected their particular style of brewing.
And they're super respected and like innovative. And from what I was reading, like I think this is a really cool, interesting sake that they make. But like I think if this is kind of like something that really excites you, like this is a great sake brew, and this is gonna deliver on that kind of like the things that you really like. They were also, as a fun fact, famous for kind of making Ginjo sakes popular in the 80s. So
Yep.
that's their personal claim to fame. And if you go to their website, it's a bit difficult because the Google translates it into English. So there's a few words that I'm like really popular in completion, which I didn't understand. But I haven't tried any of their they're like hot, like the Oka, which is what they're famous for. But I'm just love this. I don't want to be the wine shop that only has Amachi sakes, but I'm also not mad at it either. I don't know if you really like this. Like, I haven't put this on the shelf, so I don't know sure what the price is. I'll put that. I don't know if we can figure it out.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I was like, what's the price?
Can't remember. But there's also something that I mean, we're catching up with Mariko and Yuri after this wine coach in Clubhouse, and I really want to like. There's this thing I've heard said that like Amachi needs a year to develop, and I'm just curious if I misheard that or like what that means, because for me, Amachi has this kind of like wine-like quality. It's like treated like wine in that it has this like flavors that need to like relax and open up. And I'm not saying that the sake drinks like wine, but it's like it's spoken in the same reverence, the same way like a grape varietal is talking. And I think that's super fun. Oh, this is so good. I could just drink this. I was like, I'm just gonna have one glass and I'm just gonna pour that one sake, like each sake, I'm just gonna refill the glass. And then I was like, who am I kidding? This is silly. I'm going to have 4 glasses in front of me and I'm just going to, no one knows what I'm drinking. Yeah, this is great. And it's super balanced. Like, I mean, this is 16.5%. So this is like crazy, but like high alcohol when we talk about wine. But I think that's one of these, like, I don't know, for me, I try not to think about it too much. I think there's a lot of judgment made on alcohol, especially in the wine world. A lot of judgments made based on the alcohol level of a wine, and I like the trend. I don't think it, for lack of a better word, translates very well. I don't think it's the correct way to frame sake based on how alcoholic it is. Obviously, it's important from your own personal thing. Like your own personal philosophy about what you like, how much alcohol you want to like intake in your life. I understand that, but like, I don't know. I don't think like 16.5% sake should be put in the same category as like a 14.5% Cabernet from California. Like I think those parallels are unhelpful.
Yeah, especially because
I mean, do you think about alcohol level when you drink sake?
When I drink sake, yes and no, but that's actually a good point. Like I've never really like started transitioning that like wine is, or like the biases of high alcohol wine to sake, just because I guess I've always envisioned it as a very separate beverage, even though there are a lot of similarities. But that is a very interesting point. I think that that could be a point of contention for, or like a point of introspection for people that work in restaurants when you are serving sake, because that is entirely an important part of service, like making, I guess, like the accessibility of something, like how much would you pour in a serving if you're doing a tasting, or like what portion would you like to do by the glass.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We should always acknowledge that it always will generally have a higher alcohol content than wine would, but a high alcohol wine doesn't drink the same way. Like, will drink hot, and that's what you will notice. You'll be like, oh wow, this is boozy wine. But like sake, a sake at the same alcohol level doesn't drink in that same way. So if it's something that you like, you don't like the flavor or like what is in the glass in terms of like a high alcohol wine, you shouldn't necessarily assume that you're going to get that same impression when you have an sake that is higher in alcohol than a wine.
Right.
Because this is super balanced, and I don't get like, it's not blowy, it's not hot, it drinks fine, and it's super balanced. And there are other elements in sake that balance alcohol. In wine, it's tannins, it's acid, and sweetness. They all contribute. And in sake, there's a different set of elements that balance the drink. And I think that's super fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Omachi. You've heard my secret. That's what I want. So if you want to buy me a birthday present, Christmas, just the present in general, Omachi sake. I'm probably going to get pretty excited. And it's funny, in January, I think it was Pauline, she's in the chat. She for Hako Gakko, she was like, I want to drink Omachi. And I was like, I don't know what that means. And little did I know, here I am a month later going, Omachi, the way of the future. Should we have our snack? I don't know.
Oh, do you want to have
There's no
some?
time for Cheese Corner. Cheese Corner is silly. And I'm super excited to try a sparkling wine with strawberry flavored Kit Kat. So I hope you all have it, or if you've eaten it, who cares? You know, that's you. I'm sure you've experienced it in some way. I wish we all could have experienced together. Yeah. Bridget, bump up dessert. I'm the boss.
Ooh, oh,
It
that sounds
smells like strawberries. And so, I mean, it's kitschy because Kit Kats in Japan are like the coolest things in the world. If you think Kit Kat is like, oh, this is an Oreo Kit Kat, that's super fun. Like, the Japanese Kit Kat are the coolest things in the world. When I was in Japan in 2019, 2018, I can't remember, times are relevant. This is the first time I ever tried pink chocolate was tasting with a Kit Kat. And you think pink chocolate isn't a thing. Well, pink chocolate is a thing. There's dark chocolate, milk chocolate, white chocolate, and pink chocolate. It's a variety of cocoa that has pink berries. They could never figure out a way to process the cocoa that kept the pink quality. But they finally did. A Swiss chocolatier did it, and then they made a Kit Kat out of it. This kind of tastes like pink chocolate.
It kind of tastes like greasy.
Orientated. It's great. Well, this is eggnoggy. Yeah, I like that.
But does it not taste like white greasy? Is anyone else getting that? Like, And then I have my little snack corner.
Oh yeah, you got snack corner. Oh, actually, I have something that Mariko gave me. Instant noodle snack, grilled plum flavor. I should be eating it with another sake. Hey, that's too short. How you guys sound, Ma?
Ooh.
Oh, wow, these are really good. Mariko, tell me where you got these, because these are brilliant. Anyway. I'm excited. The other good thing about a sake coach session at home is that the higher alcohol content gets to the fun part sooner than wine does. So super excited for everyone. I hope everyone. Oh, Sam, Rachel wants to know what you're reading.
So I'm eating like the Sakura Arare. So it's like sakura or like cherry blossom shaped senbei that I've like eaten since I was a child. What else do I have? Wasabi peas because something spicy to go with sake, especially for the clubhouse event afterwards. Everyone, please join. And like more senbei with like almonds and black beans, and then this like other one that's like a little bit sweeter. I didn't know what I felt like, so I just added everything.
Guys, we all have to go to Japan together. I don't care. I just want to eat and drink.
It's 1 year. I was in Japan last year at this time. It's weird.
I know. I remember. I remember you. I remember that.
I should just read. I should have been like.
I love Japan. If you haven't been to Japan, and this isn't, if you've never been to Japan, go to Japan. You think it's going to be difficult, but it is the easiest vacation you'll ever do in your life. People are lovely. English isn't the the language barrier is a very different thing than what you imagine. The fear in your head, like no one's going to understand what it's there. I can't read anything. It's not a thing. Everyone's super polite, accommodating. They appreciate, your presence, and they want to make you feel welcome. And I've never had. This is the greatest vacation of my life. I can't live there because foreigners. It's very difficult for foreigners to live there. But let me tell you that Pete and I did definitely looked it up for many hours to figure out if that was possible. But being an architect but I'm not an architect, my partner is an architect. Being an architect in Japan is a very ideal skill. Sake number 3.
Samba.
Okay. Now we're going. So we were in Yamagata. We were in Nagano, which is kind of like northern, for lack of a better word, northern Japan. And for the last 2 weeks, sort of go a little further south. First to Kyoto Prefecture. Boom. Sawaya Matsumoto. I really like this.
I do too.
This is $90 if anyone wants to know. The price tag is still on there. You don't because you all got them in pouches. You didn't realize. I mean, you didn't experience like the effervescence and like the liveliness of this sake, but like it pops like a sparkling wine. It's not sparkling, but it popped like it had that little like residual pressure in the bottle. It's always a super excitement. Even like 2 days later, it still had it in there, and I was super excited for it. So Yamada Nishiki, the king of sake rice. Sam, you said this was your favorite, so This is on you to explain. No, tell me why Yamada Nishiki is the sake rice of your choice.
So for Yamada Nishiki makes up about 30% of all sake rice that's produced. So why it is so popular is because it has very hefty kernels. A lot of the rice, especially let's say going back to omachi makes up 4%, but it's really susceptible to disease, and it also grows tall enough that it falls on itself. So when you're looking at Yamada Nishiki,
the stalk is 3 meters. I think.
Oh.
No.
It makes it
3 feet. 3 feet.
Yeah. So it does. It grows a little bit easier. It has a great protein or shimpaku, so a center that you polish down to before it begins its process becoming sake or becoming a starch to sugar. And there's so many variations of Yamada Nishiki, just because the variations come from brewers. And this particular brewer, 14th generation, I believe this one is Hidehiko Matsumoto. So he was formerly the Toji. So I believe
he's no longer.
His brother,
he's not the current.
Is it Keisuke?
Or the brewmaster of this sake of this brewery, but what we're drinking is his sake. So he left the brewery late last year, but these are still his sakes, for lack of a better word.
What was I gonna say? But so yeah, they've been brewing for over 220 years.
1791. I actually looked
Yes.
at everyone. Sake number 2 brewery was founded in Tendo City, Yamagata, in 1892. Just so you know. And this is 17.
Yeah. But for this particular Toji, so Hidehiko, he
There you go.
took a lot of inspiration from his time in France, so Burgundy and Champagne, which I feel he definitely brought to his sake. And also the name Shuhari is just really beautiful to me. So it means to like preserve, but also to break away while like respecting both. And I just think that's like a gorgeous name.
Yeah. This Yamada Nishiki is from Hyogo Prefecture, which is kind of like where the best Yamada Nishiki is from. And this is from the village of Tojo, but it's not a village, it doesn't exist anymore, but this is the region that, so this is the most prized kind of region in Hyogo. I'm going to mispronounce everything. I mispronounce French, I mispronounce English. I apologize. I should have said it at the start. But this is like the prized region in Hyogo Prefecture for Yamada Nishiki rice, and this is where he sourced his rice. And he's super Hidehiko is super excited about like regionality and like that the way the where and the way and who grows the rice has a large impact on what's in the glass as much as the brew, the style, the toji, the person who makes the sake has. And so I think this is a really great sake to showcase in that this is about the rice, and it's in a way that like this is a toji that celebrates where the rice is from, and that's obviously a very Burgundian, a very French kind of way of considering rice and like all those kinds of things, and like it's grapes and like terroir, and I think this drink's very different to. This was one of the in Hakogako, the sake seminars you and I participated in. This was one of the first sakes we had in the first session, and this was like the third coolest. Like it was such a cool sake. I was like, I don't understand what this is. I don't understand the flavors. It's so delicious. Yum yum.
It's so delicious. Yeah, it's very dynamic. There's acidity, there's like layers of salinity, there's umami, there is like almost like it reminds me of like tannins, but like obviously no, but like it's not, but it has that little like back tingle. I don't know.
I agree. And it is lively. Like there's tension there. Like we talk about, I don't want to create a comparison between natural wine, but like this like effervescence, this spritz, very reminiscent of like natural wine where it is what it is and like you celebrate that. And it isn't like, it is what's best for the sake is to have a spritz, and it is best that it tastes like this. So this is the best way to express the product, and it isn't about like intervention or lack thereof. It is cool. Mm-hmm. And we talk about like there's also this minerality, like this like flaky kind of concrete kind of thing right in the mid palate that like it's perfect for pairings. It's perfect for like having a delicious meal. Like
yeah. What would you put with it?
The greatest thing about sake is that it is linked inextricably to Japanese culture, but like it's saying it's like saying only French wine is only good with French food, and that's silly. Like that's a simplistic argument to make. And in the same way sake is, like, obviously there are parallels, and Japanese cuisine and sake have this like this cultural connection, but you could drink this with so many things, with salads, with like the things that are difficult to pair with. Oh, this is like shellfish. Imagine this with like
Mhm.
oysters. Hey,
Yeah, we did this with Robert while he was still at Banan. He brought in a bunch of sake, or not a bunch of sake, no. But yeah, we paired with quite a bit of
I'm
fun
gonna ask you
things.
right now, Robert, what sakes did you bring in? Sam's making, yes, scallop crudo, absolutely. This is so
Oh,
good.
yum.
And it kind of is like this shellfish kind of like salinity. It's just rice. All it is. Like like to like think that, I don't know. This is my process, and this is me talking through my process. So I'm just like conceptualizing sake, but like with rice and water and koji. Like we talk, we romanticize grapes and wine so much, and we like, oh, the reason muscadet is salty is that there's salt that from the sea breeze lands on the grape. So it's like, sure, but like it's more like it's so romantic that like I don't know if that's true. Like this is rice, water, and koji, and there's salinity there. Like I don't know. That's what I get, and like we think it's simplistic because we just think of rice that's in our cupboard, and we're like, oh, how can rice and water and koji make something as complex and delicious as this? But it can, and you should be excited by that. I like this
I
a
also
lot.
feel like there's a bit of like interest, like not just in rice, but like water, as we learned in our
I'm not ready
Gakugo
for water
class.
yet, because water is like water is like we incorporate mineral water, we incorporate scotches because scotch and water is
Mhm.
all about that. We obviously incorporate sake because the magic of where all these waters sources come from, whether it's a lake or an alpine stream or some kind of like, it's amazing. It's such an amazing, beautiful journey of like exploring water in Japan. And I don't know. I don't have the energy for that. I
Yeah.
don't.
No, it's so interesting. Also, just like I don't know, especially coming from like more of like a coffee background, like having the ability to like change
And
the
beer
like
as well.
so changing like the part or the what's in the water also like fascinating.
Because,
Fascinating.
and this is my beer. Like beer has like, if you're a home brewer, you get like recipes for water from different cities. So if you want to make a Guinness or a stout, you use Dublin. I can't remember if Guinness is from Dublin. I apologize if it isn't. I made it. Thank you, Rachel. But like you try to replicate the water profile of that city, to be able to like, and then make your own style of beer to like best replicate the flavors. So like water is a huge part of any alcoholic beverage, and like coffee and coffee obviously. I mean coffee. I mean, should it be alcoholic? Yeah, absolutely. But like coffee in when you make espresso, and like that's a super important thing. And so like often Krista, Owen, and I have often talked about having a water class, and I don't know if I have the energy. I don't know if I
I
have
would join
the
that.
ability to do that. Just for mineral water, like mineral water is super interesting, and like what's everyone's favorite mineral water? Like for me, used to be San Pellegrino. I find it a little. See, Chris is in the chat. Yes, and we're having a whole water seminar. I used to like San Pellegrino. I kind of, in my old age, find it a little salty now, but I'm interested to find a new mineral water. Until then, Pocari Sweat. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Did you ever have Calpis instead?
Sorry?
Calpis. Like, because there's Pocari Sweat and then there's Calpis, and they're like,
Yeah, Compass is a little milky for me, just a little like cloudy, a little like opaque, and I'm like, this isn't good for me. And like my Picari journey did not start in Japan. It started in Hong Kong when I was like in my early 20s, so like probably 15 years ago. And that's where I first learnt the beauty of Pocari Sweat. And every single time I go to Asia, it's the only thing I drink. I either go to 7-Eleven, I'm like, Pocari Sweat, Pocari Sweat, Pocari Sweat. And Mariko and I literally have a text chain of just us drinking Pocari Sweat because that's how it goes. It's so delicious. Okay.
I've never had Aquarius.
Right. I'm not gonna look it up. Wine, sake number 4. The sake I added to the lineup without mentioning. Gikon. Gikon, Halt producer. It is the Gurogao of Japan. No, that's a terrible. There are 4 people in the chat that get that joke, and I appreciate. That's a terrible thing to say about Gcon. Good. Oh, Gcon is much better than good. I'm sorry. Gcon. I'm going to put it in the chat. So this is Sebonishti. This is where I was like, well, I have some Gcon. Should I just like put it in the lineup? And then I was like, well, what's the rice? It's Devonishki. Do I know it? Not at all. But it is famous. It is grown in Hiroshima Prefecture, and that's kind of where its home is. And Gcon does celebrate rice varietals and does feature rice varietals in terms of the way they make their sakes, and they do make an effort to feature the rice varietal. And I think that in itself lends itself that there is something with Sebonishki that Senbonishki. So I apologize. Senbonishki. It's not Sebon, it's Senbon. But yeah, tell me what this is the sake that makes me want to drink it all the time. Like this is the sake that's like, oh, this is wine. This is like the way that Burgundy is, why people love Burgundy. It's like you drink this and you're like, oh, this is all I want to drink for the rest of my life. Like this is so great.
It reminds me of like a very good version of like Buckley's, like not in a bad way. Not a bad way, like the cherry aspect, a little bit of like, I don't know.
I understand that. I feel that comparing Gcon to
no, but like in the most part, like I don't know, maybe I just like medicine. I was that weird kid that was like, oh yay, I get the cough medicine. So it's obviously
like, this is from the Mia Prefecture. I'm going to share my screen again because that's what I can do.
Right at the tail end of the Kumano-Kodo.
Yeah, so Mia here, and then it's right up here in Nibari. So the first one was so we're in Nagano, we're in Yamagata, and now we're in Mia. We're in Kyoto, and then we're in Mia. Mie. Gcon is like super rare. It's not in retail stores. It's very rare in Japan. It's Karen, a good friend of mine, who sold me this Gcon, literally spoke for 5 minutes on the phone about like, this is how you explain Gcon to people. I'm like, I don't have the energy for this. I'm not memorizing the 3 countries that sell Gcon and why Canada is ranked among them. I appreciate this. This is a super special sake, and I like, as much as I acknowledge that how delicious this is, and that it makes me really happy this is a super delicious, and there's something about their management of acidity that kind of reminds me of wine, that it has this like, I don't, this is such a good entry point for someone who loved white Burgundy to go, oh, you should try sake, and then you hand them some G-Con, and they're like, oh, there's like comparisons. I'm not saying that this is like wine, and why it's good is because it's like wine, but for me as someone who sells wine, who trying to convince people, you know, why to drink sake, I need every tool in my reach to like bridge that gap. And G-Con for me, and I remember tasting it the first time at Sakai Bar, for like a brewery tour over Zoom or something. We're all there. Everyone was there. Well, Krista and Brad and me and some other people. But there was something magical about it that made me go, oh, this like has this like level of, has like this, I can pull this apart the same way I would pull apart a Burgundy or pull apart a Riesling. And it's such like, as you can see through the last hour, the way I've like struggled to like compare this with wine, but also acknowledging that like a comparison with wine is reductive and that it should be its own thing. But it's the way I approach anything that I have to sell, because wine is what I know. But G-Con is super special. What are your opinions on G-Con?
I think it's delicious. I think it is developing more and more as I'm tasting it, which I enjoy. And I think that's why, like, it's so layered. For me, the herbal and the fruit nature were so heavy at the beginning, and now I'm getting a lot more florality, which honestly is very fascinating, because usually like florality is at like the forefront of most of my tastings. Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic, and I really enjoyed G-Con, and I was so like, I think it was lesson number 3 that we had G-Con, and it was just like chef's kiss.
Yeah, it's a really special sake, and I think it's a really good sake for bridging the gap between, like, sommeliers. I love them. I'm one of them, but we're dumbos, and like, we're good at what we're good at, but we're really bad at everything else. And like, I want to use G-Con as a tool to like get somms excited about sake and like give them a way to like give them a way to like understand what sake is about, and like help them feel more confident. Because, you know, if you, as the people who've watched me over the last 2 months, like confident, like I'm trying to increase people's confidence to buy wine. And when you talk about sake, this is where we talk about sommelier's confidence in saying anything. So how can we ever how can we expect civilians, for lack of a better word, to buy sake if somms themselves like aren't even confident to sell sake or drink sake themselves? And so like, this is a big point that like we want to discuss, is like, or like developers like, oh, like people should be drinking this. Like, there's a reason why there's 25 people in this session, but there were over 100 for Vietti. Like, but that shouldn't be the case. Like, these are just as dynamic as any wine from Piedmont. But there is a gap, there's a barrier somewhere, and that's kind of your job and my job to explore that barrier and like how we break it down, because this is what we're missing out on. Like, this is what people are missing out on, and they should not be missing out on G-Con. Okay, Sam, what was your favorite? Break it down.
Oh yeah, probably Omachi this time, but Dewazakura, yeah, Dewazakura has my soul, so I don't know, they took it from me a while ago. I haven't given it back.
I did not think about that. Great. Omachi was great. I love Omachi. The G-Con is pretty amazing. but Amati is my second. It's absolutely. I mean, they're all
I think
great.
I could just imagine myself drinking like and like Dewa Zakura just like at any point. Like if someone was like, okay, like a bottle, but I feel like I could see myself drinking G-Con as well. But I just feel like slightly more I could see myself like on any occasion drinking Dewa Sakura.
This is my impression, my current impression, March 2021, that I enjoy drinking all sakes. So it's like for me, it's not finding about like what I like and what I don't like. Oh, I like Junmai's, I like Honjozo's, I like Kimoto's. Like I just want this is the point where I need to dive deep into producers and I'm like Rice Bridal is super interesting and it's like a really cool way, an interesting way to approach sake, but I really I just bring me a bowl of sake and I will drink it and I will be super excited. Like I've got the this is the Izumi from a local sake producer, and they made Araba Shiri made with Yamada Nishiki and Musoka spring water. And this is super great. I'm super excited to have this. And there is local sake if you want to have it. And we want to there is different ways to experience sake, and we haven't even touched upon new world sake, for lack of the word. But this is sake is fun, and I don't know. I hope the people who've not super familiar with sake have understood that it's not everything's not warmed up, or everything doesn't taste like Daiginjo, where it's melony and banana-y and fruity and this high tone kind of ethereal thing. So there are these rich, brighty, complex kind of sakes that so great. I'm so excited.
What was your favorite?
G-Con. Followed close. No, actually, that's a lie. No, it's not a lie. G-Con is always going to be my favorite. It has it's one of my AHA sakes, just as I have a library of AHA wines. G-Con is an AHA sake. But also the Matsumoto, but also the Kasumi, the Masumi, their sparkling sake that they have. It's there's so many things about this that I really
sparkling sake, so tasty.
But what's the takeaway that I want everyone to have? I don't know. Be open to it, ask questions, go to Sakai Bar, go to Bathurst Local, go to the places that sell sake, that focus on sake, and have a really cool experience, because I think it's worth the effort and it's worth the exploration. I love that I have sakes at Peter Pan, but you pick up a bottle of sake when you're buying your Austrian Gruner, when you're buying your Smaragds. That's the story I want to sell at Peter Pantry. This isn't, you don't come for me for a breadth of sake, but I want to sell more sake. I want to talk about sake more. I know Chris does. I know there's so many songs in this city who want to talk about sake more, and we all just need to do it. What? No one's going to give us permission. No one's going to say this is the right time to talk about sake. It's just you either do it or you just get left behind. Thank you so much, Sam, for coming. I've talked about sake for too long. For those who aren't in the know, well, you all should be in the know, but we're all, Mariko and Yuri are joining us in Clubhouse after, literally in 5 minutes, to talk big questions about sake, but I really want to, I'm going to ask them what they thought. I'm going to ask them, hey, what did you think about my stupid 60-minute talk about sake? Did I do it? This is being
you did it justice.
I hope so. But Sam, thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate it. I know I'm glad I got to do sake with you. Like, there were so many things we could have like talked about, and so many things we have in common. But I was like, you all have all as long as I know you've been excited about sake, and it's been great that we could actually do the one thing we were both really super excited about. But this is super
Yeah.
fun. Just drink more sake. Just drink it all the time.
Let's drink it all the time.
It's
Everything opens again. That's all I'm selling on the floor, sake. So
and there's no sulfites in sake. There's no hangover. That's a lie. That's a bold-faced lie. But hey, if you think sulfites give you hangovers, if you think that like sulfite-free wines are somehow natural wines because they don't have any like no added sulfur is somehow better, then you're in luck because sake doesn't have any sulfur in it and it's super delicious. You get a hangover. I mean, I buried the lead, but hey, I should be wine coach at home, no hangover edition, and people will be like, yeah, hundreds of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Sam, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming. There's no wine coach next week because I need a break, but I've also got 1,000 things on. But we're back the following week with women winemakers. Hashtag who have dined at Peter Pan. There is only 4 of them, and they're the 4 producers we're going to feature. And then if you're super into sake and super into white Burgundy, later in the month, the 27th, Mariko, myself, Sheila Flattery are going to do a Sachin Montrachet and sake extravaganza. Not 4 beverages, not 5 beverages, but 6 beverages. I don't even know how that's possible. I'm really scared. It's these two, Sheila and Mariko, are the 2 most intimidating people who intimidate me the most, and I'm really scared to be part of this conversation. But there's a lot of comparisons between Burgundy and sake, and not from taste perspective, but just culturally and just for like the energy that they have. I'm super excited to explore that, but with some fun sake and some fun wine. So finally, I can just use those terms interchangeably and not make a mistake. But Sam, thank you. Rachel, thank you. Everyone, thank you. I will see everyone in Clubhouse in approximately 2 minutes. For Rachel's in charge for that one. So I don't